The cage in the basement. Jason opened the door of his grandfather's old house for the first time in many years. Dust was everywhere. The air smelled like books and metal and old secrets. He looked around with slow steps. Every room was quiet, too quiet. His grandfather had passed away 2 months ago. Now the house was his family's responsibility. But Jason came alone to clean the place. He was curious, very curious. He walked down the wooden stairs to the basement. Each step made a small creak. Darkness waited below like a quiet beast. He turned on his flashlight. The light moved across boxes and furniture. Everything looked untouched. In the far corner he saw a large cloth over something. It looked like a small table or maybe a chair, but something was strange. He walked closer. The cloth moved a little, just a little, like something had breathed underneath it. Jason stopped. His heart beat louder. He took a deep breath and pulled the cloth away. Under it was a metal cage, old and rusted. Too small for a person, but something was inside. He saw long silver hair, glowing blue eyes, thin arms. A girl inside the cage. She was not human. Her skin was pale blue. Her eyes were too bright. Her ears long and thin like a leaf. She looked like a drawing from a sci-fi book. Jason stepped back. The girl looked at him with fear. She whispered something very soft. Please, please don't tell them." Jason could not speak. He could not move. His brain tried to understand who was she. Why was she here? Sat inside the small cage. She looked very weak. Her clothes were torn and old. A small light blinked behind her neck. A small chip or device. Jason leaned closer. She didn't move. She just looked at him. Her voice came again, soft like wind. "Are you going to send me back?" Jason said nothing. He looked around. This was real, not a dream. This was something no one had told him about. The girl said, "He used to feed me. Your grandfather, he was kind in the beginning. Then he became afraid." Jason asked, "What are you?" She said, "I don't know the word in your language. I was just a child when I came. I ran, I hid. But he caught me." Jason felt cold. He sat down on the floor. The girl said, "He called me Specimen 9. He studied me, tested my skin, my blood. But he never let me go." Jason asked, "How long have you been here?" She said, "I don't know. I don't feel time like you, but I stopped growing many years ago." Jason looked at the cage. It had strong metal bars, small space. "Too small for someone to live?" he asked. "Can you come out now?" She shook her head. "The chip on my neck, it locks me inside. If I cross the bars, it hurts. It burns." Jason felt anger. He felt sadness. She had lived like this for years in darkness. Alone, he stood up. He looked at the cage. He looked at the basement. Everything now felt different. This house was not just a home. It was a prison. The girl looked at him again. She said, "Don't open it now. If you do, they will know. They will come." Jason asked, "Who?" She said, "The ones watching from above. The ones who left me here." Jason froze. He looked up at the ceiling, as if the sky could hear them. He whispered, "Are they still coming?" She nodded. "They always watch. They wait for me to escape. Then they return." Jason's flashlight started to blink. The light turned dim. A soft noise came from the device on her neck. A beep, then another. Something had been activated. The girl grabbed the bars. Her voice sharp. "You must choose, hide me or free me. But once the cage opens, the sky will change." Jason looked into her glowing eyes, so full of pain and something else. Hope. His hand touched the cage door. The lock was old, rusty, weak, but he hesitated. He heard something upstairs, a creak, like footsteps. Jason turned back to the girl. Her voice was almost silent. "Please, not yet. They are listening." Jason could not sleep that night. He sat near the basement door with a blanket around his shoulders. The house was quiet, but his mind was full of noise. The glowing eyes of the girl were still in his head. The way she spoke, the way she looked, like she had never seen sunlight. He had brought her some food before sunset. Bread and water. She did not eat like a human. She touched the bread once, then looked at him with a weak smile. He asked her name, but she said she did not have one. He told her his name again, and she nodded slowly. Jason felt like he was in the middle of a story he had never read, like a secret chapter in his family's life. His grandfather was a quiet man, a retired scientist. He always said little and wrote a lot. Jason remembered the locked drawers in the upstairs study. He stood up and went to check them. Study smelled like paper and ink. Dust danced in the air like old memories. He found the drawer and tried to open it. Locked. He searched the desk and found a small iron key. The lock clicked. Inside were papers, old yellow files, drawings of something. Not machines, not animals. Something alive. He picked up a file with the label Subject 9. Inside were photos of the same girl in the cage, but younger, or maybe not. She looked the same. No change in face, no change in size, no change in age. He looked at the dates. 12 years ago, 10 years ago, 7 years ago. Same face, same glowing eyes, same silver hair. She had never grown. Jason's hands shook a little. He read notes written by his grandfather. She does not sleep. She does not eat like us. She speaks slowly but learns fast. She fears light. She does not age. Jason closed the file and took it to the basement. He showed it to her through the bars. She looked at it and said nothing. Then she pointed to one line. The one that said Subject 9 is safe as long as the chip remains active. Jason asked what the chip really did. She said it was not just a lock. It was a signal, a call to her people, but a broken one. A message stuck in time. It called and called, but no one answered. Jason asked how she came here. She said she came in a small pod. It fell from the sky. She was hiding from something. Her people were running. She was one of the last. Her pod landed in the woods near this house. His grandfather found her first, took her in. He asked questions. At first he was kind. Then he became afraid. He built the cage. He placed the chip. He called her a specimen. He stopped talking. He just watched. Jason felt his chest tighten. He looked at her and asked how she could still be alive. She said time does not touch her like it touches humans. Her planet moved slow. Her body did not change fast. She could live hundreds of years without growing old. Jason looked at the cage again. The bars were thin, but the chip kept her in. It made a sound if she touched them. It burned her skin. It kept her weak. She said it also stopped her memory. Some of her past was locked inside it. Jason asked if removing the chip would help. She said maybe, but maybe it would kill her. She did not know. She had never lived without it. Her hands were shaking, not from fear, from waiting too many years in the dark. Jason made a promise he would find a way to break the chip. He would not let her die in a cage. She smiled again, very small, very soft, like a light in fog. Then Jason asked something different. Do you want to go back? She looked up. Her eyes became sharp like stars behind clouds. She said no. There's nothing left to go back to. Jason sat down again. He felt the floor cold under him. The cage between them was old, but strong. His heart was full of questions. His mind was full of plans. Upstairs, a light flickered. A sound came from the front door, a knock, then silence. Jason stood up. He whispered to her. She nodded and moved back into the shadow. He walked upstairs, opened the door slowly. No one was there, only a small box on the ground. He picked it up. There was no name, just a symbol. The same symbol from the chip on her neck. He closed the door and locked it. He carried the box back to the basement. She saw it and gasped. Her voice cracked. This came from them. Jason opened the box slowly. Inside was a device, small, silver, shaped like a teardrop. She looked at it with fear, or maybe recognition. Jason knew one thing now. This was bigger than science, bigger than space. He was not just a boy anymore. He was the first human she had spoken to in 12 years, and he had just opened a door that could not be closed. The rain started falling as Jason sat by the basement door with the strange silver device in his hand. It was warm like skin. It pulsed slowly like a heartbeat. He turned it around and saw strange symbols glowing on the surface. He did not understand them, but the girl did. She stayed quiet for a long time, her eyes fixed on the object, her fingers trembling. She finally whispered, "This is not made by humans." Jason moved closer and asked what it meant. She said it was a memory key, a device that holds pieces of the past. Only someone like her could open it fully, but it needed something more. It needed trust. She took a deep breath and asked Jason to hold her hand. He hesitated for a second, then reached through the bars. Her skin was soft but cold. A light appeared from the device. It floated up and created shapes in the air. Jason saw a large world covered in blue forests and glowing rivers. He saw towers made of glass that floated in the air. He saw her people, tall, elegant, gentle. He saw fire. In the sky he saw ships burning. He saw her running. She was just a child when it happened. She was inside a learning pod with others. Then a red light flashed. The sky broke apart. An enemy had come from the dark corners of space, not to conquer, but to erase. Her teachers told her to run, to hide. Her pod was launched without direction, without protection. She cried inside it as stars passed by. Her world disappeared behind her. She drifted for days or maybe years, then her pod crashed into a cold forest on a planet called Earth. Jason watched the memory fade. The light returned to the silver device. The girl let go of his hand. She looked tired, not from the memory, but from holding it inside for so long. He asked what happened after she landed. She said animals found her first. Wolves circled her pod but did not attack. She stayed hidden inside until someone came. It was a man, an old man. Your grandfather. At first he was afraid, but then he became curious. He brought her to this house, he asked. Her name, she told him her real name, but he could not say it. He called her 9. The 9th file in his book of mysteries. He treated her kindly for some time, gave her books, spoke to her, let her sit in the sunlight. But one day he changed. He saw her do something strange. She healed a cut on her hand in seconds. He called it unnatural. He became silent. Then he built the cage. Jason felt pain in his chest as he listened. He asked why she stayed silent for so long. She said she tried to speak, tried to reach out, but the chip on her neck grew stronger. It made her forget her language, forget her powers, forget her name. She touched the chip gently. It hummed again, like it was alive. She said the chip was not just a lock, it was a beacon sending signals into space, but the signal was broken, like a whisper lost in wind. Jason remembered the strange men who came to the house before. They asked questions. They looked through windows. They left without answers, but now he knew why they came. He asked her if her people could still receive the signal. She said maybe, if the chip was repaired, if the device was used, if the message reached far enough. Jason stood up. He walked to a shelf filled with old tools and wires. He started gathering pieces. He had fixed small machines before he knew how circuits worked. He did not know alien technology, but he knew one thing. She needed help, and he was the only one who could give it. Worked for hours connecting wires, following lights. She watched him quietly, sometimes guiding him with a nod or a word. Rain kept falling outside. The basement felt like another world, a hidden place where time moved differently. Like her world, like her life. Finally the device made a sound, a soft chime. A light blinked twice, then stayed on. She looked at it with wide eyes. Her voice cracked. It is ready. Jason looked at the chip, then at her. He asked if she was ready. She nodded slowly. He held the device near the chip. The light touched her skin. A flash of blue light filled the room. She screamed once, not from pain, from release. The chip fell to the ground. She took a deep breath. Her eyes grew brighter. Her skin glowed for a moment. She stood up inside the cage. For the first time in 12 years, Jason stepped back. He looked at her, not as a prisoner, not as a creature, but as someone who came from the stars. And now she was free. The night sky above the old house was full of clouds. No stars could be seen. Only the sound of wind moved through the trees. Jason sat on the basement floor, looking at the broken chip in his hand. The girl now stood outside the cage, her body calm, but her eyes alert. She looked stronger now, brighter, more real. She touched the walls of the basement like they were new to her, each step slow and careful, as if the floor might vanish. Jason asked her if she was feeling better. She nodded. Then she looked at the door. She said something is coming. Jason felt a cold breath on the back of his neck. He looked up at the narrow basement window. Nothing there, just rain and shadows, but his chest felt heavy, like air was watching him. Walked up to the main floor. The house was dark except for a lamp in the hallway. He heard the wind outside, then something else. A knock very soft, not like a visitor, like a warning. Jason opened the front door just a little. No one was there, but he saw footprints on the wet steps, heavy boots, not his. Not from this night. He stepped back and locked the door, ran down to the basement. She was waiting. She said the signal reached, but not just her people. Others heard it too. Jason asked who they were. She said they are called the listeners, not human. Not from her world either. They follow signals across space. They collect, they erase. They do not ask, they only come. Jason remembered the men in black suits. They looked human, but something was wrong about them. Their eyes too dark, their smiles too cold. One of them said the signal came from here. But Jason had lied. He had said he knew nothing. Now he knew everything, and that made him a target. Suddenly the basement light flickered, then turned off. Total darkness. Then a sharp flash through the basement window, like a camera, like someone taking a picture. The girl grabbed Jason's arm. She said, "We need to leave now." Jason opened a back panel near the shelves. It was a small crawl space that led under the house. He had used it once as a child. They crawled through the dirt and pipes, the sound of boots above them, slow, heavy, measuring the floor. Reached the edge of the forest behind the house. The girl looked at the sky, her hand glowing faintly. She said, "They are not above. They are around, watching, waiting." Jason asked where they could go. She pointed toward the old shed where his grandfather kept machines. Inside the shed was silence. Old tools and broken wires covered the walls. But in the center was something different, something hidden under a black sheet. She pulled the sheet away. Jason gasped. It was a machine. Not human, half metal, half crystal, round like a giant egg. She said this was her pod, the one she came in. Jason asked how it got here. She said your grandfather kept it secret. He studied it, tried to open it, failed, then buried it. She placed the silver memory key near the keyer. Pod had opened slowly with a soft hum. The inside glowed blue, warm and peaceful. She said, "This pod is my way back, but only if we fix it." Jason looked around the shed. He found a toolbox, wires, small batteries. He had done school projects before. This was different, but he had no choice. She guided him, spoke in soft instructions. They worked like shadows, silent, fast. He connected wires. She powered crystals. Suddenly a sound outside, a knock on the shed door. Not like before, louder 3 times. Then silence. Jason held his breath. He looked through a crack in the wood. Men stood outside, black coats, no faces in the dark, only red lights on their belts. They did not speak, they simply waited. The girl whispered, "They are not human, their skin is fake. Their breath is cold. If they enter, we vanish." Jason asked if the pod was ready. She said, "Almost." He said, "Then we fight for time." He grabbed a metal rod and stood near the door, his heart louder than thunder. The girl sat in the pod, her hand on the control. Crystal, her voice calm. "You gave me hope, now I give you trust." The door shook. A hand pushed it open. Jason swung the rod. It passed through the figure. No sound, only sparks. The figure did not fall. It did not move back. It looked at him without eyes. The girl shouted. Now the pod lit up. The light spread like wings. It touched the figure. It screamed without sound. It faded like dust. Jason fell to his knees. The girl stepped out and helped him up. She looked at him, said, "We must leave, they will return." With more, Jason nodded. He looked back at the house in the distance, the place of secrets, of pain, of courage. They stepped into the pod. The door closed, the light rose, the night sky opened, and the forest fell silent again. The pod moved through the sky like a silent star. No engine sound, no smoke, just light, pure and quiet. Jason sat inside with wide eyes. He looked at the girl, who now seemed brighter than ever. She no longer looked lost. She looked ready. She placed her hand on the crystal panel. A map appeared in front of them, floating lights, lines of stars. A path that curved like a ribbon across the galaxy. Jason asked where they were going. She said not far, just outside the pull of the earth, to a station hidden in orbit, a place built by her kind long ago, left behind, sleeping in silence. The pod entered darkness, no clouds, no wind, only the stars outside. Then Jason saw a large ring made of black metal floating in space, silent, still invisible from Earth. The pod entered the ring. The inside lit up soft blue lights along the walls. The air smelled clean. The station was not broken, just waiting. She led Jason through a narrow hallway. Every step echoed. He asked her what this place was. She said it was a memory vault, a place where minds and moments could be stored, where forgotten truth could return. She said the chip in her neck had taken many pieces from her, but some still lived locked deep inside. Jason asked why his grandfather wanted to block her memory. She stopped walking. She said maybe he saw something inside her, something too dangerous or maybe something too precious, so he kept it hidden. They reached a circular room filled with mirrors. In the center was a chair made of light. She sat down slowly. Her eyes closed. The silver device from earlier floated beside her. Jason stood back as the room began to hum. The mirrors lit up one by one, each showing a different image. Not from the world, but from her thoughts. A broken starship, a man in a black coat, a child running through a forest, a large door with a glowing lock, and then a face old familiar. It was his grandfather. Jason stepped closer. The mirror showed the man speaking to someone, not her, but to a recording device. He said the girl carries something more than memory, something built into her mind, a map, a signal, a code that opens the gate. Jason asked what gate. The mirror changed again. Now it showed a giant structure hidden inside a planet, not Earth, something read dead on the outside, but inside it glowed alive. She opened her eyes. She said this is why they wanted her, not just for study, but for the gate, because her kind had sealed it long ago, and she was the last one who knew how to open it. Jason asked what was inside. She said a prison, not for people, but for something dark, something born before stars, something that waits. Jason felt his throat tighten. He looked at her. She looked back. She said the chip was not just a prison for her body, it was a lock for her mind, a way to keep the gate closed. As long as she forgot, the gate stayed sealed. But now her memory was returning, and the gate was listening. Suddenly, the room shook. The lights flickered. Jason looked at the walls. Symbols appeared, not in any human language, but he understood them like a dream you cannot read but still feel. The girl stood up. She said someone else is here. Jason followed her through the hallway. They reached the main deck. A red light blinked on the screen, an incoming signal. She touched it. A voice spoke. It was not human, not angry, not loud, just cold. We see you, we hear the key. She has awakened. Jason stepped back. The girl looked at the stars through the window. She said they have followed the signal. They want the gate open. Because what waits inside is not their enemy. It is their master. Jason said, then we cannot let them near it. She nodded, but said they will try. They always try. They never stop. Jason asked if the gate could be destroyed. She said no, but it can be sealed. Again, stronger than before, but only from the inside. He looked at her. He understood what she meant. She said if I go in and close it from there I cannot return. Jason felt his heart fall. He said there must be another way. She smiled, the kind of smile that carries light and sorrow together. She said maybe you are the other way. She touched his forehead. A flash of memory passed into him. Stars, codes, voices. A key now lived inside him too. She said now they cannot win unless they catch both of us, and we are not easy to catch. The lights of the station turned red. Ships were coming. Not hers, not Earth's. Jason looked at her. She held out her hand. Are you ready? He took it without fear. They turned to face the stars together. Asterisk. The sky above Earth was quiet, but only for a moment. Jason and the girl stood inside the memory station, floating just beyond the reach of human eyes. They looked at the map of stars glowing across the walls. Each point was moving, each path leading to danger or escape. She placed her hand on the main panel, and the station responded like it knew her again. Her voice was soft but clear. The gate is calling. The enemy is listening. We must go now before they find our path. Jason nodded, but asked where they would go. She said the pod cannot take us far. We need the original craft, the one hidden below, the one locked by your grandfather before he died. Jason remembered the secret doors under the forest. The machine he once thought was just a story he never believed. The whispers in his grandfather's notes, now he knew they were all true. The station began to shake. Red lights flashed, ships were entering orbit, dark metal shapes moving without heat or sound. Not from Earth, not from her world, but something older. The girl touched the side of Jason's head. A burst of memory flowed into him. The path, the code, the exact location of the hidden vessel. Buried under roots, sealed in stone, she looked at him with steady eyes. This ship was made by my people to guard the gate. It was never meant to fly again, but it must. Jason and the girl stepped back into the pod. The memory station powered down behind them. Its lights faded, its purpose complete. The pod fell through the layers of sky like a whisper, invisible, untouchable, until it reached the edge of the forest. They landed in silence. The ground was wet. The trees stood tall like watchers of forgotten truth. She guided Jason through the woods, every step remembered, every path marked in her mind. They reached a clearing covered in leaves. Jason bent down and brushed the earth with his hand. He felt something hard, cold, not stone, not wood, metal. He pressed the code she gave him into the device from the station. The ground opened with a quiet hiss. A platform rose slowly, old, covered in moss, but alive beneath it was the craft, larger than the pod, shaped like a wingless bird, its body smooth like water, its surface marked with glowing lines. Jason stepped forward and placed his hand on the door. It opened for him, not because he was the pilot, but because he carried her trust inside his memory. Now they entered the craft. Inside was dark. Then the lights came on, not with buttons, but with presence. The ship knew her. It remembered her voice, her name, her pain. She walked to the center and sat in the control seat. Jason took the one beside her. She looked at him. If we fly now, they will follow. If we wait, they will arrive, Jason said. Then we fly. Craft lifted gently. Trees bent around it. Clouds parted above it. The world seemed to hold its breath. As they rose, Jason looked out the window. He saw flashes of light behind them. Dark ships moving in formation. Coming fast. No warning, no message, only purpose. The girl turned the ship toward the edge of Earth's pull. She spoke a word in her language. The engines responded, not with fire, but with light. The ship vanished from sight, reappeared near the gate planet. A red and broken world floating alone. Jason asked if the enemy would reach before them. She said, they are already here. They live near the gate, always waiting, always waiting, always to low into the red planet's atmosphere. Storms raged, winds howled, but the ship moved through it like it belonged. They reached the surface. A giant door stood in the middle of a canyon, tall and silent, marked with the same symbols from her memory. She stepped out with Jason beside her. They walked toward the gate together. Every step was like walking into history, or maybe the future. Jason asked. The gate could be closed forever. She said, only from within, and only by someone who carries both light and memory. She looked at him. He understood. She wanted him to be the one. Not because she could not, but because the enemy would not expect it. Jason stepped forward. The gate sensed him. It glowed. It opened. Inside was not fire, not darkness, but a room of mirrors, each one showing different futures. Some filled with stars, some filled with silence. She stayed outside, watching him, her eyes calm, her voice strong. You carry my memory now. You carry my people. If you close the gate, you become more than human. Jason smiled, not with pride, but with purpose. He walked inside. The mirrors blinked once, then vanished. The gate sealed behind him. She turned back toward the ship. She looked at the stars and whispered his name into the wind. The gate stood silent on the red world. No more light, no more sound, only dust and stone and memory. She stood outside alone, the wind moving her silver hair, her eyes watching the sealed surface where Jason had entered. He was gone, not lost, not dead, but beyond reach. She touched the ground and whispered something in her language. A song without music, a prayer without God, a farewell without end. Ship waited quietly behind her. It had no voice of its own, only purpose to carry her forward, to carry his memory. She stepped inside and took her seat. The gate faded behind her like a forgotten dream. The stars opened ahead like doors of fire. She did not fly away in fear. She flew with reason, with weight, with promise. Earth appeared in the distance. Like a blue tear in space, she remembered its forests, its storms, its cruelty, its kindness. She remembered the basement, the cage, the bread, the voice of a boy who became more than human. She remembered his choice, to walk into a place no one returned from, not because he had to, but because he wanted her to live. The ship entered orbit quietly. She watched the clouds move across oceans. She watched the cities glow like sparks in the dark. She did not land. Instead, she opened a signal, a message across all channels, a single sentence in clear voice. He gave his future for your world. Do not waste it. She dropped a small black cube from the ship. It fell through the sky like a star returning home. It landed in a quiet field outside a small town inside. The cube was knowledge, not weapons, not machines, but stories of her people, stories of his bravery, stories of the gate, and the choice that closed it. Governments found the cube first. They tried to break it, tried to hide it, but it opened only for one person, his mother. She touched the cube, and it showed her everything. The girl, the cage, the ship, the choice. She cried without words. She stood for hours in the field, holding the cube like it was her son. The world began to change after that, slow, like ice, but real. People started asking different questions. Not how to conquer, but how to connect. Not what is out there, but who. The girl watched from orbit. She never landed, never walked among humans again, but she listened. 1 year passed, then 2. The night sky remained the same, but people now looked at it with new eyes. One night a bright shape appeared above the city. Not a pod, not a cube, but a ship like a silver wing. Silent, glowing. People gathered in streets. Children pointed, elders prayed. News cameras flashed, but no answers came. Then a voice echoed from the sky, clear, soft. Not a warning, not a threat, a promise. The one you lost is not forgotten. He lives inside the gate, and because of him, you are safe. A figure stepped from the light. She had not aged, not changed, but her presence now carried more than memory. She stood in front of the crowd, eyes filled with stars, and said his name, Jason. The crowd grew quiet. The wind stopped. The world listened. She said, he showed us what humans can become. Not rulers, not invaders, but guardians. He chose silence to protect voices. He chose shadow to protect light. I come not to rule your world, but to remind it kindness is not weakness, hope is not foolish, sacrifice is not loss. She placed her hand on the Fidka ground. A tree grew in seconds, its leaves silver, its roots glowing. She said, this is a seed of our world. It will grow only if protected. It will die if poisoned, just like peace. Then she stepped back into the ship. The light rose into the sky and vanished. People did not speak at first. They just watched the sky. The tree remained. It grew slowly. Its light never faded. And every year on the same night, the same ship appeared for 1 minute, then disappeared again. Some say she comes to visit his memory. Others say she guards the gate from afar. But those who knew the story, those who touched the cube, those who believed, they said something else. She will return, not as a savior, not as a queen, but as a friend, because once in the silence of a basement, a human boy looked into alien eyes and chose courage. The stars remember, and so will we.